welcome to this series of videos on some of the most virtuoso piano works published by Henle Verlag. In the following minutes, let's have a look at Ravel's Scarbo from Gaspard de la Nuit. Scarbo is definitely one of the most difficult piano pieces ever written. And Ravel himself stated that he wanted to compose something more difficult than Balakirev Islamé. In fact, the musical ideas of this piece, inspired by the Gothic poem by Bertrand, are so peculiar and whimsical that the pianistic solution devised by Ravel turned out to be most of the time uncomfortable for the pianist. The image of the diabolic gnome sleeping around the room with his little sparkling eyes, hiding in the dark and suddenly re-emerging as in the worst nightmares, is translated in sound by throbbing rhythm, iridescent motifs, rapid and sudden changes of register and color. The various sections of the piece, each using different kinds of piano technique, follow one another and alternate with hysterical haste. Fast arpeggios, repeated notes, heavy alternating chords, even harsh chromatic scales of seconds. And all this must be held together in a framework, in a single poem. This is perhaps the greatest difficulty of the piece, to combine all this material together, never giving up its variety. To vivify the structure of the piece with balance, it is also necessary to think about the dynamic indications. Ravel himself advised not to use a loud sonority too often in order to give the true highlights of the piece the right emphasis. Furthermore, in the music of this refined composer, we are faced with a perfectly ordered clockwork. This piece in particular is based on a peculiar and calculated rhythmical structure, so it's very important to understand and follow every indication on the score. This means that the unstoppable run of the terrifying Scarbo is made by quick but measured steps. So be careful to avoid useless rubato, to be very clear when you play the principal staccato motifs and the accompaniment too, and in general to respect the precise duration of the chords and the pauses. Otherwise, the general rhythmical structure will be lost. Let's go now to the tips for dealing with some particular technical passages. At the very beginning, to play the repeated notes, there could be different solutions. The best would be, of course, to play the passage as Ravel wrote it, so alternating the first and the two fingers with the left hand alone. Like that. But you could play them, and some pianists too, with the right hand also, always with these two fingers, or even with one finger alone, like that. So with these tiny movements of the wrist. But it's very important anyway to stay as close to the keys as you can, so to play on the escapement action. Like that. Very often in this piece, the real challenge is about the dynamic and the sound, like in bar 232. In this passage, you need to make a straight diminuendo going up to the keyboard. And to realize it, I think the best way is to combine the action of the fingers to the action of the pedal. First of all, you need to practice, of course, the arpeggios to make them the most homogeneous possible, with no articulations and very smooth. In the right hand, you have a simple F sharp minor arpeggio, while in the left hand, you have these groups of four notes repeated all the time, etc. Now, play with energy the first note in forte, then make a sudden diminuendo with your hands, and finally release the pedal very slowly. So you will play the last beat completely without it, realizing the pianissimo with your hands alone. We find another tricky passage in bar 256. Sometimes, as you know, pianists have to use the two hands in the same space of the keyboard. In these cases, we have to choose, of course, which hand should be on top and which one below. In this specific passage, keep your left hand always under your right hand, playing it very fast and light, yet rhythmical, and let your right hand free to play the repeated notes. Here. Now, from bar 448, we have a quite unique technical passage, as we have a series of intervals of seconds played more and more quickly. And they begin from here. Quite slow, so you get used to it, to this kind of movement. But in bar 460, they are very quick. So let's see this passage. First of all, we have to think that in this passage there is a singing line to follow. So start for yourself isolating it. Then you can add the other notes, being sure to tilt your hand slightly to the left, as your thumb will be comfortable playing on the white keys and your fingers 2 and 3 on the black ones. Now, make a kind of percussive but gentle and light movement of the fingers, imagining to merge the finger 2 and 3 in one finger alone, like this, with this movement. And this will be useful, this kind of percussive movement, also later, here, and here, always like that. And you can realize the dynamic you need by increasing or decreasing the weight of your arms. And in doing this, keep your wrist and your elbow very free to move always. With this movement. Well, I hope this will be useful for you if you are working or planning to work on this piece. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned on endless social media channels.